Good evening. For several weeks now, we have been treated to what has become a cliche of theatrical performance in the name of fighting corruption. It is not almost a question of whether public money will be lost in every government project, but how much. And it does not matter what that project is and what it is meant for. Yes, looting of public coffers can happen anywhere and by anyone. Well, by anyone is debatable. Stop a minute and think about the much talked about alleged corruption scandals in the country. Are they just mere allegations? Well, the suspects will remain innocent until a court of law says otherwise. And most likely, the court will return an innocent verdict. Not because public money was stolen when the public really needed medical services against a killer pandemic, but because the suspects knew the right people. Tonight, I dare say that corruption is easy if you know the right people. But why is corruption such an easy crime even when the laws that are there are meant to deter it? Will it be fair to tonight conclude that it is in our DNA to adore ill-gotten wealth at the expense of poor, hard-working Kenyans? Well, even the Hustlers Club admits tonight that corruption must be punished. But they are not willing to take a candid stand about it. In fact, the latest graft allegations have become good political fodder for both Hustlers Club and the so-called dynasties. The hustlers are falling over themselves, pushing for action to be taken against corrupt suspects. Never mind, the self-proclaimed leader of this club is Deputy President William Ruto, who is on record saying it is good to be an outsider because he cannot be tied to the wanton theft in government. An admission that indeed theft is rampant in government. And ever a worse admission that politics is always the go-between when the public coffers are stolen. So, like I said earlier, the abhorrent crime of corruption can be committed by anyone. They will only need to know the right political people. But as much as the crime remains a despicable injustice against the people, the perpetrators and the people whom they know are equally just that, powerful, despicable thieves. Tonight, that is our editorial comment, and tonight of all nights, these are the stories making headlines tonight. Jonah swallowed. Suspended KEMSA boss Jonah Manjari thrown under the bus by the board. Manjari is an isolated man as blame is shifted on him for the COVID-19 procurement mess. The details here tonight.
The board did not approve the over-expenditure. Indeed, that issue did not come to the board until much later. I think in August of this year, when the management brought to the issue of having surpassed the budget by 7.6 billion.
Also tonight, broke counties. Governors threatened to close counties over delay in the disbursement of funds to the devolved units.
The senators failed to safeguard the interests of the county government by failing to pass a third generation formula. This has left counties with no resources to effectively discharge their function, especially in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic.
The counties are broke, but Senate is blaming Treasury for failure to release at least 50% of funds to the counties. The blame game continues.
I also refer you also to a meeting that was held in Treasury discussing this issue. And the same position was found that indeed Treasury has sufficient legal authority to disburse 50% of the equitable share.
Plus, Bado to Obado, ODM defends its decision to initiate the impeachment motion against Migori Governor Okoth Obado. Migori MCAs are divided over the motion. The details here tonight. Good evening. Faith Chepile is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Suspended Kenya Medical Supplies Agency CEO Jonah Manjari is an isolated man, as blames are shifted to him over the COVID-19 procurement mess. This even as the Ministry of Health reveals that 21 packages from Jack Ma's Foundation have gone missing. Joash Onsare begins our broadcast tonight.
Suspended KEMSA CEO Dr. Jonah Manjari is now an isolated man. Pressure is now piling on the embattled CEO, with blame shifting on him for the COVID-19 procurement mess. KEMSA board chairman Kembi Gitura and the procurement chief Charles Juma sinking his boat further.
You can see now here KEMSA is coming to the reality of overcommitting, and now they have committed up to 5 billion. And Chair, I want to also be very categorical to say that this the ministry was not aware of.
Gitura told the Health Committee that Manjari ignored the board's advice on budgetary expenditure and went ahead to write directly to the National Treasury seeking additional funds.
The board did not approve the over-expenditure. Indeed, that issue did not come to the board until much later.
KEMSA board chair Kembi Gitura further accused Manjari of not working with the board during serious decision-making process. Manjari was pushed between a rock and a hard place to explain the KEMSA scandal, where he insisted he followed the due process in procuring COVID-19 equipment.
At this time, we have products and technologies that can last this country for a period of more than 6 months. It is my humble submission that all these procurements we did with our eyes open, with a passion in our hearts for the safety of the healthcare workers as they did their duty.
The suspended procurement director, Charles Juma, was asked to explain why he signed all the advisory letters instead of the CEO Manjari. Juma stating he didn't sign.
All the commitment letters which were issued to the suppliers were signed by the chief executive officer. None of them was signed by the director of procurement. And I remember in one meeting which the chair was there, and the CEO, myself, and the Director of Commercial Services, the chairman alluded to the fact that all commitment letters should only be signed by the Chief Executive Officer.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Transport has revealed that 21 COVID-19 equipment packages donated by Jack Ma in March this year went missing. This is according to Transport Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Chris Obure, who appeared before the Parliamentary Health Committee to answer to queries on the billions of shillings meant for COVID-19. Obure says he has reported to the Ministry of Health to follow up from the source donor in China.
There is nothing more we can do at this stage. As to the value of the 21 missing packages, I'm not in a position to say that because we didn't even know what that 21 packages contained, what was comprised in those 21 packages. And so I want to assure the honourable member, we prepared, that's our job, to provide this House with any information the House wants.
The investigations into the matter continues. Joash Onsare, TV47.
Elsewhere, statistics from the Council of Governors on the number of people who have recovered from the home-based care in the last 1.5 weeks is seemingly differing from the official statistics released by the Ministry of Health on the same. This as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country draws closer to 35,000 mark after 212 more people tested positive for the virus. Zainab Mohammed has the details.
As controversies continue to surround the actuality of the COVID-19 statistics in the country, suspicion continues to surround the statistics provided by the Ministry of Health on a daily basis. according to a statement sent to newsrooms from the Council of Governors. In just 1.5 weeks, a total of 569 patients have recovered from the home-based care, contradicting the statistics from the Ministry of Health that shows in just 3 days, between the 1st of September to the 3rd of September, more than 591 patients have recovered from the program. Meanwhile, COG Chair Wycliffe Oparanya says 32 out of 47 counties have attained the prescribed 300-bed capacity in isolation facilities. 15 counties are yet to meet this threshold. 46 counties have active quarantine facilities where 1,110 patients are confined, whereas 1,741 patients have so far been released in the last 1 week. 25,023 tests have so far been carried out, where 167 health workers tested positive. Cumulatively, 101,377 health workers have been trained and sensitized in 4 counties, and 76,193 community health volunteers have been trained and sensitized on the management of COVID-19. This is as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country rises to 34,705 cases after 212 more people tested positive for the virus. 195 people have recovered as 4 more people succumbed to the virus. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Elsewhere, politics has often been referred to as a game with no permanent enemies and equally no permanent friends. Fallouts are inevitable, but some have proved to be too costly to some politicians in the country, such as the fallouts with ODM party leader Raila Odinga, with some politicians who have parted ways with the former premier appearing to be clutching at the straws to salvage their dwindling political careers. Our reporter David Mudoka has the details.
He has often been referred to as the godfather of Kenyan politics.
I feel very strong and rejuvenated.
His decades-long political career has seen him politically sire not one, not two, but numerous political sons and daughters. Widely referred to as Baba, he is no other than ODM party leader Raila Amolo Odinga. But politics being the game it is, a game where frenemy apparently rules, a game without permanent friends nor enemies, fallouts within Baba's ODM territory have been inevitable over time. But a number of Baba's political orphans have seemed to have taken a turn for the worse after ditching the ODM bandwagon. The decisions have seemed costly, with some appearing to sink into political oblivion in the aftermath. This even prompting self-declared Baba's political son, Suna East legislator Junet Mohammed, at one time to caution fellow political siblings against rubbing shoulders with Raila.
And to the former majority leader, politically, my brother, when you see us following Baba like cows, we are fearing consequences like the one you are facing now. So politics is like that, Mukova.
Little is known about the whereabouts of Kisumu pioneer Governor Jack Ranguma, having sensationally rose to power in his first stab at politics as the ODM flag bearer in 2013. Cracks began to form between the former Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner and his party leader Raila shortly after. Amid failed reconciliation attempts, Raila rallied Kisumu MCS to probe graft allegations against Ranguma. His deputy Ruth Odinga, who is Raila's younger sister, would 5 years later in 2017 term working with Ranguma a forced marriage. Come ballot day in 2017, Ranguma was resoundingly trounced by then Kisumu Senator Professor Anyang' Nyong'o for the gubernatorial seat. Exit Ranguma, enter former Kisumu County Assembly Speaker Onyango Olo. Olo's helm as Kisumu Speaker was short-lived after failing to adhere to Odinga's calls to unite the Kisumu County Assembly. His ouster coming in September last year, and a replacement took over 4 months later to seal his fate.
1, 2, 3
When now Foreign Affairs CAS Sababu Namwamba caused drama in the National Assembly in 2008 by swearing his allegiance to Raila. Many thought theirs was a match forged in steel, made in heaven. Ababu, who was then Budalangi MP, would however 8 years later jump ship to the Jubilee camp, a decision that would see Ababu lose his incumbency as Budalangi MP to ODM's Raphael Wanjala. Another casualty of the Baba fallout is the self-declared bullfighter from Ikolomani, Boni Halwale. Prior to the 2017 general elections, Halwale seemed conjoined at the hip with Odinga, but Halwale's decision to rival Raila's preferred choice for the Kakamega gubernatorial seat, incumbent Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, was the beginning of his end. The bullfighter, who has often found ways to court controversy, was dealt a blow on the ballot in the polls later that year and has since switched loyalties to Deputy President William Ruto's camp. Others to have switched loyalties to DP Ruto's camp are embattled Migori Governor Okodho Bado and Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa. The two are arguably the latest to suffer the consequences of falling out with Odinga. Obado and Jumwa have not once been guests of the state, with the former now risking impeachment. He arguably seems to have a lot on his plate, with two grave matters, namely graft and murder charges, staring at him in the courts.
Mimi mahakama hii nitaingia na kutoka, kama ni polisi nitaenda na kutoka.
On the other hand, Jumwa has had an uphill task shaking off her woes. She is no longer a stranger in the courtroom. In October last year, the outspoken legislator was put behind bars after an ODM supporter was shot dead in her constituency. She will again be arrested this Sunday for failing to show up in court after reports of fraud involving officials in her office surfaced. Other politicians to have rubbed shoulders with Odinga include former Machakos Senator Johnston Muthama, former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, and Nyali MP Mohamed Ali. But whether the predicaments are Odinga's doing or a matter of sheer coincidence, your guess is as good as mine. David Muthoka, TV47.
Thank you, David Mudhoka, for that analysis. Elsewhere, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, his environment counterpart Kariako Tobiko, and Health CS Mutahi Kagwe have faulted the ongoing campaigns ahead of 2022, terming them as premature. The trio are in Kajiado County inspecting government projects, as Andrin Kilemi now tells us.
Speaking during a security meeting with government administrators, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i said the government will not be swayed by political noise from the section of politicians from serving Kenyans and fulfilling the Jubilee administration's Big Four agenda.
Hatuwezi hata dakika moja kusinzia hapa ili tufanye mchezo na kazi kuwe na shida katika Kajiado. When my brother Kawe says Kajiado is not a normal county, that's what it means. There are very few counties in Kenya, in fact other than Nairobi, which other county is as completely cosmopolitan as Kajiado. Every Kenyan lives in Kajiado, from every region of the country. Hii ni Kenya. This is a microcosm of our country, Kenya. Hii Kajiado. Na itabaki hivyo, na tutakaa sisi wote hapa pamoja, because God wants us to live together as one people in one country, in this one county. And it is us, people in the security sector, who have a responsibility to ensure that everyone who lives in Kajiado here lives peacefully, goes about their businesses without any interruption and so on.
Matiang'i was in the company of his health counterpart Mutahi Kagwe, Environment CS Keriako Tobiko, and Police Inspector General Hilary Mutiambai. Kagwe said he will not be cowed to shift his focus on COVID-19 pandemic that has begun to flatten the curve.
Fitina pande moja, kazi pande moja. Wajua, kuna watu wanafikiria ukiendelea kusema ati huyu mtu si mtu, ni mnyama. Ukisema huyu ni simba, unaangalia Mutahi Kagwe unasema huyo sio Mutahi Kagwe, huyo ni Matiang'i. Na unaendelea unasema kila siku huyu ni Matiang'i. Wewe unafikiri siku moja Mutahi Kagwe atakuwa Matiang'i? Hata ukizungumza miaka 1000, mimi nitakuwa Matiang'i kweli?
Environment CS Keriako Tobiko took issue with the recent political delegations from Kajiado County to Deputy President's Karen home, a sentiment that was echoed by Kajiado Central MP Elijah Memusi.
All these premature campaigns, receiving of delegation, that effort should be the energy and the resources that are being expended for this purpose should be meaningfully utilized. Na mimi ningeomba sana, na sasa nazungumza kama waziri wa mazingira na misitu, tungekuwa tunatumia fraction of that money that is being utilized for premature campaigns kuangalia mazingira na kutunza mazingira zetu.
Kajiado Governor Joseph Lenku reiterated his government's commitment to partner with the national government to initiate development projects in the country. Andrin Kilemi for TV47.
Thank you, Kilemi Andrin, for that report. 20 minutes past 9 p.m. Time for us to take a short break here on TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi. Remember, as always, you as the viewer, you as the audience, your voice matters. Keep talking to us. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. We'll be back with more news after this break. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us on the county's television. Let's get to more news now. And the Council of Governors is tonight threatening to shut down counties if the stalemate on revenue sharing will not be resolved. Governors claim that the devolved units are already broke and will have no option other than sending their staff on leave. Senators, however, blaming Treasury for failing to disburse at least 50% to the counties. Our Parliamentary Affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuku has the details.
The county bosses have threatened to shut county operations, accusing Senate of delaying the revenue a 2 weeks ultimatum. Oparanya says if the crisis persists, the Council of Governors will have no option but to shut operations and send workers on leave.
Fika tarehe 17 kama tujapata pesa tutafunga kaunti zote. Alafu wafanyakazi waende nyumbani kwa likizo mpaka wakati tutapata hizo pesa.
COG is threatening to table a motion to dissolve the upper house over the stalemate. The Council of Governors is disappointed by the Senate for failing to build a consensus on an acceptable revenue sharing formula, as a result, delaying the implementation of the County Allocation Revenue Act.
Forewarned the Senate that a petition for its solution can be initiated by any member of the public through a high court as provided for under Article 258.
However, Senate is now piling the blame on Treasury and Controller of Budget for failing to release at least 50% to the devolved units.
I also refer you also to a meeting that was held in Treasury discussing this issue. And the same position was found that indeed Treasury has sufficient legal authority to disburse 50% of the equitable share.
Meanwhile, governors are pushing the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to audit Senate County Public Accounts Committee over corruption allegations. The county bosses say they have been pushed to bribe the members of the Oversight Committee.
Imefika wakasema sasa tuwe tunaenda huko. Na tunajua kwa nini wanataka tuende huko fiscally. Yale mambo ambao wanasema leta transport, fanya hivi. Lakini sisi tunasema tunajua wakati wengi wetu wamefika kile miaka ambao ziko vulnerable kwa mambo ya COVID.
Sentiments that haven't gone well with the committee members.
Now I can see the Council of Governors chair is calling for, he said he will sponsor a petition to dissolve Senate so that we close the counties. Yet we are here fighting for him to get money. But when we call him here to come and account for it, he does not want. Shame on him.
And don't take it that when we summon you here, that we are extortionists. We are not extortionists. We're just simply carrying out our mandate. And I think I wanted to say that very clearly. So that there is not left in doubt that if we continue, we shall conscientiously continue discharging our mandate.
The supremacy battle has ensued between senators and governors. Now COG Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya threatening to sponsor a motion to have Senate dissolved, while senators are now calling upon governors for accountability for the funds allocated to the counties. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Palm Buildings, Nairobi.
Moving on, the Orange Democratic Party, ODM, says it reached the decision to have Governor Okoth Obado impeached since the corruption allegations that the governor is facing have tainted his integrity and eroded public confidence in his office. Mwangi Maina has the details.
It is not yet over for embattled Migori Governor Zakaria Okoth Obado, as the ODM party is determined to have him ousted. His goose is cooked and ready. The ODM party, through its chairman John Mbadi, says corruption charges against Governor Obado has indubitably tainted his integrity. Thus, he cannot continue dispensing his duties.
Aware that the governor is trying to convene a cabinet meeting
at his home tomorrow, which means he's determined to hang on to office and continue undermining his deputy who should be taking over the management of the county under the circumstances. In fact, Obado's interpretation of the conditions of the bail is that the office simply means the physical building. That is further from the truth. Nothing can be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, the office means discharging your functions as an officer or a public officer.
ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has asked Obado to carry his own cross and stop cajoling facts by trying to turn his case to an alleged political witch hunt.
Tukawauliza kamba kuna uwezekano kwamba yule aliye naibu wa gavana anaweza kuendeleza kazi hiyo kwa sasa. Wakatuambia kwa sababu ya zile circumstances zipo pale Migori kwamba huyu naibu wa gavana hata tayari ni kama Obado alikuwa amemtelekeza, hana afisi, haji afisi, hakuna kiongozi yote ama mfanyikazi yote wa kaunti ambaye anamsikiza. Wakatueleza kwamba iwapo tutampa huyu ndugu ambaye ni deputy naibu wa gavana nafasi ya kuwatumikia wananchi wa Migori, lazima tumpe a fresh start. Huo mwongozo ulitoka kwao wenyewe.
The Orange Party said it will furnish the government with names of Migori CECs, directors of departments, contractors, chief officers, among other officials who are allegedly raising money and diverting public funds to bribe and finance violence in Migori.
You know, you cannot intimidate or threaten a public officer in the execution of his duties. So we expect that the MCAs in Migori, because the threat of violence is the only weapon that Honorable, the governor has. The threat of violence and money. Those are the only two things. So we are asking that the security forces ensure security of every MCA. Politics is about persuasion. Let them be able to persuade the MCAs why they think he should not be impeached. But from where we stand, it is clear that the assembly has already made the decision that Obado must go.
ODM has been known as the only party in the history of Kenya to have agitated for and continues with verve to push for the strengthening of devolution. It consequently behooves the party to ensure regions led by the party are models of the same. And I said the other day, I want to repeat today, that Migori County is a county that is dominant, which is dominantly ODM in terms of leadership.
ODM holds the position that Okoth Obado's continued stay as a governor will lead to a serious stagnation in Migori.
Chama kina usemi kuhusu utendakazi wa viongozi wote ambao wamechaguliwa chini ya tiketi yao. Kwa hivyo hakuna chochote katika katiba ya Kenya ambaye inazuia chama haswa kuwaita wanachama wake. Tuliwaita wanachama wa ODM peke yao ili kufanya ushauri na wao. Au kuona Mheshimiwa Mbadi ama mimi nikiandika barua ninatuma Migori nasema tumesema mfanye hili. Hapana, tuliwaita kwa ushauriano na tukaafikia huu msimamo kwa kipamoja.
In their statement, ODM has chided Obado, saying that only a leader who has lost all honor and respect for constituents who have no conscience would want to continue with office with such shameful charges against him. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, from politics, listen to this. 10 young men have rolled out a training program in Nakuru County on growing food crops in tiny spaces off the ground. The innovative youngsters, all university students, have formed a youth group which is promoting the adoption of storied conical-shaped gardens with an aim of ensuring that the country's food security is not at threat.
The Caldera Youth Group from the heart of Nakuru County innovated story gardening since the month of March when schools were closed due to COVID-19. On a 50 by 100 piece of land, the 10-member youth group has managed to produce indigenous vegetables and fruits, among them strawberries. This exceptional way of farming, they say, is efficient in getting the most out of the space.
The story garden occupies 21 square feet. In the same space, you are going to plant 16 vegetables or stems if you are to plant on the ground. But with the story garden, we use 130 stems in one story garden. So in that we find that we are maximizing on the space and also increasing the produce that we are going to have.
So far, the only challenge they have had to deal with is that of agricultural pests and diseases, which Richard Kiama, a land economics student at the University of Nairobi, says they have formulated a way to get rid of them.
Strawberry attracts a lot of those snails, but we found out that when you put alcohol or vodka on a cup and you put it next to the garden, the strawberries, the snails will not be that much of a problem.
Parents with pieces of land have been encouraged to venture into such projects as well as support their children.
Those parents who have maybe a 50 by 100, even a quarter, you can start up something like this, and you will get more profit from it.
Youths of Caldera have vowed to remain sky high in story gardening to encourage their peers in Nakuru County. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, a section of supporters of Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria's presidential bid have expressed confidence of him being the next Mount Kenya regional political kingpin after President Uhuru Kenyatta's exit come 2022. The Murang'a governor is eyeing the top seat through his Civil Renewal Party.
We were invited by Kiambu youth leaders who registered interest to support Governor Mwangi wa Iria for presidency and also support him as the incoming president 2022. And we are very grateful for the people of Kiambu, and especially the young people who feel that there is hope even after the presidency of those elements across the country that are saying that there shall not be another Kikuyu president. That is highest form of abuse of human rights and constitution and Article 38 of the Constitution that give every Kenyan right to contest any seat if he is above 18 years old. It is individuals who contest, it's not community.
Tutaachwa yatima kama hatutakubaliana. Tutaachwa yatima kama mtu anaweza enda kwa National TV aseme Mount Kenya hakuna viongozi, na tutawaletea viongozi.
Moving on, political aspirants in the country have called for radical changes in the political landscape to allow them to be incorporated in the government after elections. And as Eli Logova now reports, the political aspirants want the government to come up with policies which can allow runners-up to secure posts and spots in either the two levels of government.
As the clamor for constitutional amendments gain momentum in the country, political leaders continue to align themselves ready to battle for the changes being proposed in the constitution through the BBI report. Political leaders have since disintegrated as some support the changes while others oppose any constitutional amendment. Under the National Aspirants Forum, political aspirants have noted that the negative effects of winner-takes-it-all politics was clear since it had created an entitled political class that won't hesitate to bend any rule in their pursuit of powers and wealth. The aspirants now calling for changes in the political landscape.
We have seen cases where even the party leaders have crushed all the political party structures and replaced them with the parliamentary groups. When they want to sanitize or satanize the political issues, they call the parliamentary groups.
The aspirants are of opinion that political party leaders have for the longest time crushed all the party structures and replaced them with political groups, with those elected and those who contested being left out awaiting the next elections. They want the government to come up with the policies which can allow runners-up to secure a spot in either the two levels of government and foster more development in their respective fields.
Hata wakati huu tunajaribu sana kuinvolve the registrar of political parties. Kwamba wao wakisema kwamba zile katiba za chama ambazo zinapelekwa kule kwa registrar of political parties ziwe na ile clause ambayo inaonyesha kwamba aspirants ambao waliweza kusimama kwenye vyama zao wanashirikishwa katika kila hali kwa vyama.
The aspirants are currently working with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, Registrar of Political Parties and other relevant stakeholders to ensure they incorporate their views. Eli Logova, TV47.
Elsewhere, animal health experts and specialists have raised a red flag over the inflow of counterfeit and poor quality drugs into the country. This comes after wrangles at the Veterinary Medicine Directorate Board leave in a vacuum within the board.
Animal health specialists have raised a red flag over manufacturers, importers and distributors who are taking advantage of wrangles at the Veterinary Medicine Directorate Board to flood the country with fake and poor quality drugs. Animal Health Technicians and Technologists Association of Kenya says due to absence of a regulator, veterinary drugs are now being sold and dispensed in open-air markets, kiosks, groceries and hardware stores, exposing Kenyans to health risks and economic losses.
I am Oreste Karanja. It's unfortunate because of the power wrangles and self-interests. We still do not have a Veterinary Medicines Directorate Board, such that all the drugs that are sold do not have a regulator, and that is it's a challenge, and it poses health risks to Kenyans because we have drugs that are not regulated. Actually, as things are now, you can take any powder and maybe pack it and call it this drug, and nobody will ask you because we don't have the regulating board in place. What we are calling, if the Minister of Agriculture has failed, we call upon the President to intervene, and maybe we get a board soonest possible. The names that were given to the CS by the Kenya Veterinary Board are not the ones that he appointed. That's where this push for came into being.
The body has raised concern that most farmers were complaining of reoccurrence of diseases in their animals, while others had lost thousands of shillings following failure by their livestock to conceive after being artificially inseminated. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya gazetted Josiah Mashiki Mandieka, John Wilberforce Mashibi, James Mushini Mbaria, and Douglas Gitonga as members of the Veterinary Medicine Directorate (VMD). However, the appointment was challenged in court by Kenya Veterinary Board on grounds that it was made contrary to the law and recommendations of the board. Now, Animal Health urged the Cabinet Secretary of Health to address board wrangles, terming the delay as catastrophic.
Thank you very much. My name is Calvin, also a member of the Committee of Legal Affairs in Animal Health Technicians and Technologies Association of Kenya. It is very important that our beloved government help us to bring this body in place so that our drugs can be regulated, so that not any Kenyan, not any farmer can walk into any drug facility and take his drugs and go and use it without regulation, as it stands right now.
Now calling on President Uhuru Kenyatta to intervene, adding that the process of nominating members of VMD board was clearly outlined in the Veterinary Surgeons and Veterinary Professionals Act 2011. Lynette Githua, TV47.
Elsewhere, families desperate following their failed attempts to recover the body of their kin who slipped and fell into a dam 4 days ago. They are now calling on the government to help in efforts to retrieve the body and train divers in the area in case of such emergencies. Our very own Rahab Kinuthia reports from Nakuru County.
According to the father of the deceased, his son Robert Langat was chasing after his duck when he accidentally tripped into the Barargate Dam.
Huyu kijana leo ni siku ya 3 tukimtafuta. Ilikuwa ni juzi, hatujapata. Huyu kijana aliingia bahari na nasemekana alikuwa anapiga maji kutafuta bata.
Their efforts to recover the body have borne no fruit so far, owing to the rising levels of water in the dam due to heavy rains.
Ningeomba sana serikali ya county government ya Nakuru ikiongozwa na Liki Nyanjui waweze kututrainia vijana wawe divers. Wakati huu tunangojea divers kutoka Bomet County. Na hatuna hata divers wachache ambao wanaweza kutusaidia katika hii Nakuru.
Residents are now urging the government to put up perimeter walls around the dams in the area to avoid preventable accidents.
County government pamoja na national government, especially county government, wakuje watuangalilie hizi madam zote zenye ziko katika hii ward yetu, kwa sababu wakati huu wa msimu wa mvua maji yameweza kuongezeka sana na imeweza kubeba watu wengi, maisha za watu zimepotelea hapa.
Reporting for TV47, my name is Rahab Kinothia.
All right, thoughts and prayers with that family. You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take another short break. When we come back from the break, we will get sporty, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us here on the county's television. Let's get to the world of sports now. And it's 7 years since former Harambee Stars midfielder Titus Mulama unwillingly hung his boots. The man who rocked the midfield with ease to the delight of Kenyans before bowing out in 2013. But just how was Mulama's rise to stardom? Here is our reporter Dennis Otieno with that story.
From a spectator to a midfield terminator, Titus Mulama's journey of glee and gloom traces its roots back to the penultimate years of the 20th century, the days when he and street football were inseparable. Then a teenager in the informal settlement of Mathare, Mulama's passion for football grew from watching his older neighbors play over the window in an adjacent dusty pitch.
Tukigrow kulikuwa na wale wachezaji wakubwa wetu ambao walikuwa ni wazuri sana, ambao walikuwa wanacheza pia Premier League. Ambao tulikuwa tunawaenzi sana. Mazetu tulikuwa tukikaa kwa dirisha tukiangalia, tunaona boli linachezwa hapa. Bado walikuwa tu hapa kwa kiwanja mali tuko.
And after the school curriculum crafted his technique, the burning 16-year-old Mulama had his ambitions set and occasionally training with the senior team before being absorbed.
Nilikuwa train na Mathare United senior team. So niliposikia kuna trials, sema sasa kuna trials ni nini? Basi niende nikaone ni aje. Mimi na viatu zangu tukaenda huko Mathare Mental huko. Tukaenda kwa ground tukajaribu kuanza kucheza ndio na watu wengi bana. Tukatrain after tizi kujeni kesho hakuna kitu mnaambiwa 3 weeks. Sasa kumbe trials ndio inafanywa hivyo, mimi sijaijua. Mwezi inaenda kuisha ikawa squad imechaguliwa, Tito yuko ndani kama apprentice player mdogo wa team. Unapata pesa kidogo ya kujaga na kucheza.
Broke and unmotivated, the aspiring midfielder almost surrendered his dreams before earning a call-up to Harambee Stars under-23 team in the year 2000 and to the senior squad a year later.
Tunapata pesa kidogo mazi kama kijana mdogo na yeye umeanza maisha, unajua utaki na mada. So ikakuwa lazima nitie bidii niweze kupata gachapa ya juu. Sasa nika train, ilikuwa ni journey tough sana kwa sababu hiyo mwaka nilicheza game I think 3. Mpaka nilikuwa nimeacha ball. Nika quit. Nasema na sasa nangangana nini hapa bana? Na mimi hata nikujienjoy. Kumbe tena nikuteseka hapa, acha niwa.
A move to the Rwandan side of Amre Patriotic followed, and Tito would feel the glory of being a professional soccer player. In 2007, Mulama joined Swedish outfit VSK Västerås, where he charged for 2 seasons before jetting back home and turning out for various clubs, among them Mathare United, KCB and Sofapaka. It is at Sofapaka where he unwillingly ended his illustrious career after being hit by injury, and the club in tandem.
Miezi mbili nikija kiwanjani nikajaribu physio kidogo, nikajaribu kuanza kukimbia, nikapigwa na barua ya kwamba your performance is below the expected standards, so we terminate your contract. Nilikuwa contract ya miaka miwili. Kumbuka ni miaka miwili, nilipiga miezi 2-3 nikaumia. So in May I think unapata barua, utalewa. Unajua nikashindwa nini tumekuwa na nyinyi kama nina perform below the expected standards. Kandarasi inasema kama mtu anataka performance iko chini, muongeleshe, umpate nafasi aweze kuinuka. Hapa niko na injury. How am I supposed to perform? Na niko na injury ambayo nilipata nikiwa kwa mazoezi.
In the spirit of the game, the 40-year-old now trains children in his native of Mathare as a way of giving back to his community. He says,
sisi tunadeal na watoi, si ball peke yake, but paka arts. Talent yako yote tutakupatia nafasi. Wewe kama showcase, kama ujibambe na watoto wenzako. Sababu hauwezi kutubarikiwa wote kibolo. Unaweza kuwa wewe ni wa kuimba, lakini kama muingie kwa hii family, tufanye vitu pamoja upate nafasi. Kuna watu wengi sana ambao wana vitu vipawa lakini hawapati nafasi ama exposure ya kujionyesha.
Mulama continues to inspire many even after his active days on the pitch, the true testimony of a legend that is not only good to himself but the cause of goodness to others too. Dennis Otieno, TV47 Sports.
Elsewhere, Gor Mahia has signed 4 more players, bringing to 11 the number of new recruits ahead of the new season. Western Stima defensive duo Kelvin Wasonga and Kennedy Odhiambo have joined on a 4-year and 2-year deals respectively, as midfielder John Ochieng ditched Chemelil Sugar on a 2-year deal. Malawian playmaker Andrew Malisero has signed a 3-year contract with Gor, and according to the club's chairman, Goal is revamping after high-profile player exits.
Recruitment of new players. Now this depends, this is what I call revamping. There we engage the coach in identifying areas where he thinks there has been weakness and there is need for us to scout for better talent or for others that will take place. Unfortunately, at the moment, it is very difficult to give them any physical trial given the conditions of the current epidemic or pandemic. So we are all the same still undertaking the process of recruiting other players to replace those who are departing.
And finally, Alexis secured the biggest win